Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The office buzzed as usual, keyboards clacking, muted conversations, but something felt off. Whispers carried an edge and glances lingered too long. I couldn't shake the unease as I wrapped up my report. Gianna, Mr. Russell wants to see you, Emma, his assistant, said quietly. Her expression was tight. Did he say why? I asked, heart skipping. She hesitated. No. Just, he's waiting. Walking to his office, I noticed the stairs. My palms were damp as I opened the door. Gregory stood by the window, his back to me. Close the door, he said, his tone clipped. I obeyed, setting my notepad on the desk. You've been here a long time, he began, still not facing me. 12 years, I said. He finally turned, his sharp suit matching his cold gaze. Exactly, which makes this harder. I blinked. Harder? He slid a folder across the desk. Termination agreement stared back at me. We're restructuring, he said flatly. Your position is redundant. What? My voice cracked. Gregory, I've led the R&D team through record profits. This makes no sense. It's not about performance, he interrupted, his eyes flicking to my belly. Your situation complicates things. My situation? I repeated, heat rising in my chest. You mean my pregnancy? He shrugged. This isn't personal, it's business. I clenched my fists. This is illegal. He leaned forward, smirking. You're free to pursue legal action. Our lawyers are ready. The weight of his words sank in. He had planned this, orchestrated every detail to ensure I wouldn't have a leg to stand on. This isn't over, I said, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. Oh, it is, Gregory replied, his lips curling into a faint, smug smile. The door opened, and 2 security guards stepped in. They'll escort you out. Minutes later, I found myself standing on the curb outside the building, clutching a hastily packed box of my belongings. The wind was cold against my cheeks, biting at the tears I refused to let fall. Employees passed by, some offering sympathetic glances, others avoiding eye contact altogether. My phone buzzed. Ewan? Gianna? My husband's voice was steady, but concern laced every word. They fired me, I choked out, because I'm pregnant. Silence, then a calm but firm reply. Come home. We'll figure this out. As I hung up, I glanced back at the building, the place I had poured my heart and soul into for over a decade. Gregory's smug face flashed in my mind, and for the first time my despair gave way to something else. Rage. This wasn't over. The late-night glow of the living room lamp cast long shadows as Ewan sat across from me, his laptop open but angled just out of view. I was curled on the couch, clutching a mug of tea I could barely taste. You're awfully quiet, I murmured, breaking the tense silence. He looked up, his dark eyes searching mine. Thinking, he replied. About what? Solutions, he said simply, and while his voice was calm, the weight behind it felt charged, electric even. I sighed. There's nothing to fix, Ewan. Gregory Russell is untouchable. He's insulated by his money, his power, his ego. My voice cracked at the last word, and I blinked away fresh tears. Ewan leaned back, tapping his fingers against the edge of the laptop. Untouchable, huh? His tone had shifted, quiet yet firm, like a lock clicking into place. I frowned. What are you planning? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he closed the laptop and stood. Trust me, Gianna, just trust me. The next morning, Ewan left early without much explanation. I didn't push. He often worked on confidential projects as a private investor in tech startups, his world full of NDAs and high-stakes deals. But something gnawed at me. His silence wasn't typical. By mid-afternoon, curiosity had me dialing his number. The call went straight to voicemail. My unease grew. Hours later, I was folding laundry when the TV news caught my attention. Breaking. A significant shakeup in the corporate tech world. Sources reveal that a mysterious investor has acquired a controlling stake in World, the leading nanotechnology firm. The mug in my hand slipped, shattering on the floor. I barely noticed. My heart raced as I grabbed my phone and frantically scrolled through news alerts. Investor identity undisclosed. Acquisition valued at millions. Leadership changes rumored. I knew this was Yuan. I just knew. When he finally walked through the door that evening, I was waiting. Yuan. I started, trying to keep my voice steady. Tell me this isn't what I think it is. He set his briefcase down and shrugged off his coat. What do you think it is? You bought N.A.N.O. World, didn't you? He met my gaze, his face unreadable. Then, after a pause, he said, I didn't buy it. My firm did. Why? Yuan, why? He stepped closer, placing his hands on my shoulders. Because I saw an opportunity, Gianna. One they'll never see coming. My breath caught. What opportunity? To take back what's yours. As his words sank in, a mix of fear and hope coursed through me. This wasn't just a business deal, it was a declaration of war. The conference room hummed with low murmurs as the board members shuffled uncomfortably in their seats. Gregory Russell sat at the head of the table, his presence as imposing as ever. His signature scowl was on full display as he flipped through the quarterly reports, his pen tapping irritably against the polished table. This, he barked, slamming the papers down, is unacceptable. Who's responsible for this mess? No one answered. The silence was heavy, punctuated only by the faint hum of the air conditioning. Gregory's eyes swept the room, his lip curling in disdain. The double doors swung open, and the murmurs stopped instantly. Every head turned as Yuan Lawrence walked in, his stride calm but purposeful. Gregory froze, confusion flickering across his face. Yuan, Gregory said, his voice dripping with condescension. This is a private meeting. You're not authorized to be here. Yuan gave a small smile, pulling a sleek folder from under his arm. Actually, Gregory, I am. He placed the folder on the table and opened it, revealing a stack of signed documents. As of this morning, I am the majority shareholder and the new CEO of N.A.N.O. World. Gasps rippled through the room. Gregory's face turned a mottled red. What kind of joke is this? He demanded, rising from his chair. No joke, Yuan said calmly. I've acquired controlling interest in this company, and the board has unanimously approved the leadership transition. Gregory's fists clenched, his voice rising. You can't just walk in here and take my company. Yuan raised an eyebrow. Your company? Gregory, the numbers speak for themselves. Declining profits, employee turnover through the roof, and let's not forget your questionable management style. The board was ready for a change. Gregory's voice faltered. This is ridiculous. I've been with this company for over 2 decades. You think you can do better. Yuan's expression hardened. I don't think, Gregory. I know. And unlike you, I value the people who make this company what it is. The room fell silent again as Gregory looked around, seeking support. The board members averted their gazes, their loyalty already shifted. Yuan gestured to the stack of papers in front of Gregory. Your severance package is generous, considering the damage you've done. But if you prefer to stay, I've reassigned you to a role more suited to your skill set. Gregory's laugh was bitter and sharp. And what role would that be? Yuan's smile didn't waver. Courier. You'll be handling deliveries, something that requires far less decision-making. The room erupted into whispers, some stifled laughter breaking through. Gregory's face crumbled, the weight of humiliation crashing down on him. You won't get away with this, he spat, his voice trembling. I already have, Yuan replied, his tone cool. Gregory stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. Yuan turned back to the board, his voice steady. Now let's talk about rebuilding this company, starting with treating our employees like the assets they are. In that moment, I realized Gregory's reign of terror was truly over. But as I watched Yuan take command, a nagging thought lingered at the edge of my mind. Could Gregory let this humiliation go, or had we just made an enemy? The conference room buzzed with anticipation as employees filled the space. Gianna stood nervously outside the glass doors, her hands trembling slightly. Yuan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You've earned this, Gianna, he said softly. Let them see the strength that Gregory never valued. She nodded, drawing in a deep breath before stepping inside. The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward her. A few hushed whispers broke out, growing louder as recognition spread among the crowd. Is that Gianna? Someone murmured. She's back? Another whispered. Yuan stepped forward, commanding the room with his presence. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. His voice was steady but held an edge of excitement. As you know, we're taking Gianna World in a new direction, one that prioritizes people over profits. And today, I'm thrilled to announce the return of someone who embodies that spirit. He turned toward Gianna, gesturing for her to join him. Her heart pounded as she stepped forward, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Many of you know Gianna Lawrence, Ewan continued. She dedicated 12 years of her life to this company, only to be cast aside when she needed support the most. That changes now. Gianna will be returning as Senior Project Director, effective immediately. The room erupted into applause. A few employees even stood, clapping enthusiastically. Gianna's eyes stung with tears as she scanned the familiar faces, some smiling warmly, others looking at her with newfound respect. "Thank you," Gianna said, her voice shaking slightly. "I can't tell you how much this means to me. I'm committed to making Gianna World a place where everyone feels valued, where no one is ever treated the way I was." The applause grew louder, but as Gianna's gaze swept the room, she noticed a figure lingering near the back wall. Her breath caught. Gregory. He leaned against the doorframe, his expression unreadable. When their eyes met, he smirked and gave her a slow, mocking clap before turning and walking away. Her stomach tightened. "Ewan," she whispered, leaning closer. "He was here." "Gregory." Ewan's jaw clenched. "Don't worry. He has no power here anymore. Focus on your moment." But Gianna couldn't shake the uneasy feeling settling over her. Even as her colleagues swarmed her with congratulations, Gregory's shadow loomed large in her mind. What was he planning, and how far would he go to reclaim what he'd lost? The nursery was bathed in the soft glow of a nightlight, the faint scent of lavender lingering in the air. Gianna rocked Hyder in her arms, humming a lullaby as Ewan leaned against the doorway, watching them with a tender smile. "You're a natural," he said quietly, stepping into the room. Gianna smiled but couldn't hide the flicker of worry in her eyes. "I can't shake this feeling, Ewan." Gregory's silence. "It feels like the calm before a storm." Ewan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "He's out of the picture, Gianna. Let's focus on the future we're building, for Hyder, for us, and for the company." But the uneasy feeling lingered, gnawing at the edges of her peace. The next morning, as Gianna arrived at the office, her assistant rushed to meet her, holding a tablet with a breaking news alert. "You need to see this," the assistant said, her voice trembling. The headline blared across the screen. "Former Gianna World CEO Gregory Russell accused of embezzlement." Gianna's breath hitched. "What?" Apparently, an internal audit uncovered millions siphoned off into offshore accounts under his name, the assistant explained. "The authorities are involved." Ewan entered the office moments later, his expression grim. "Gregory's been arrested," he confirmed. "The audit team found evidence going back years. He's finished." Evening, as she reviewed files in her home office, she noticed something strange in one of the company's project folders. A deleted file that seemed to have been recently accessed. Curious, she called the IT team. "Can you recover a deleted file from the R&D folder? It looks suspicious." Minutes later, the team called back. "You were right," they said. The file contained blueprints for a prototype Gregory had secretly sold to a competitor. Gianna's pulse quickened. "Do we have proof?" "Yes," they replied, "enough to seal his fate for good." The next day, Gianna and Ewan held a press conference, unveiling the prototype and exposing Gregory's betrayal. The public backlash was swift and unforgiving, cementing Gregory's downfall. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison for embezzlement and grand larceny. As they left the stage, Gianna turned to Ewan, her eyes gleaming with determination. "We did it. Gianna World has a future worth fighting for." Ewan smiled, wrapping an arm around her. "And so do we." But as they walked away, Gianna couldn't help but glance over her shoulder, wondering if Gregory's secrets truly ended here, or if the shadows of his actions would linger a little longer.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.